First inaugural address of Abraham Lincoln. In compliance with the custom as old as the government itself, I appear before you to address you briefly and to take in your presence the oath prescribed by the Constitution of the United States to be taken by the President before he enters on the execution of this office. I don't consider it necessary at present for me to discuss those matters of administration about which there is no special anxiety or excitement. Apprehension seems to exist among the people of southern states that by the accession of the Republican administration, their property and their peace and personal security are to be endangered. There has been there has been never been any reasonable cause for such apprehension. Indeed, the most ample evidence to that contrary has been the while existed and been open to their inspection. I do but quote from one of those speeches which when I declare that I have no purpose directly or indirectly to interfere with the institution of slavery in the states where it exists. Those who nominated and elected me to do did so with full knowledge that I had made this and many similar declarations and had never recanted them, and more than this, they placed in the platform for my acceptance and as a law to themselves and to me this clear emphatic resolution which I now read. Resolved that the maintenance inviolate of the right of the states and especially the right of each state to order and control in its own domestic institution according to its own judgment exclusively is essential to that balance of power on which the perfection and endurance of our political fabric depends. And we denounce the lawless invasion of by armed forces of the soil of any state, no matter what pretext, as among the gravest of crimes. I now reiterate these sentiments, and in doing so, I only press upon the public acceptance, the attention, the most conclusive evidence of which the case is susceptible, that the property, peace, and security of no section are to be in any wise endangered by the now incoming administration. There is much controversy about the delivering up of the fugitives from service or labor. The clause now I read is as plainly written by the Constitution as any others in the provision. It is scarcely a question that the provision was intended by those who made it reclaiming of what we call fugitive slaves, and the intention of the lawgivers is the law. All members of the Congress swear their support to the whole Constitution, to this provision as much as to any other. Now, if they would make the effort in good temper, could they not make it nearly in unanimity frame and pass a law by means of which to keep good and that ununanimous oath? To be some difference of opinion whether the clause should be enforced by a nation, by national or state authority, but surely that difference is not a very material one. If the slave is to be surrendered, it can be of little consequence to him or to others by which authority is to be done. Again, in any law upon the subject ought not all the safeguards of liberty, no in civilized and humane jurisprudence to be introduced so that the free man be not in any case surrendered by a slave. I take the official oath today with no mental reservation and with no purpose to construe the Constitution or any law by any hypocritical rules, and while I do not choose now to specify particular acts of Congress as proper to be enforced, I do suggest that it will be much safer for all, both in official and private stations, to conform to abide by all those acts which stand unrepealed than to violate any of them, trusting to find impunity or in having them to hold unconstitutional. It is 72 years since the first inauguration of a president under national constitution. During the period, 15 different and greatly distinguished citizens have in succession administered the executive branch of the government. They have conducted it through their many perils and generally with great success. Yet, with the scope of precedent, now I enter upon that same task for a brief constitutional term of 4 years until great and peculiar difficulty. I hold that the contemplation of universal law and of Constitution of the Union of the States is perpetual. Perpetuity is implied, if not expressed, in the fundamental law of all national governments. It is safe to assert that no government proper ever had as a provision in its organic law for its own termination. Again, if United States be not a government proper but an association of the states in the nature of contract merely, can it as contract be peaceably unmade by less than all the parties who made it? But if destruction of the Union by one or by a part only of the states be lawfully possible, the Union is less perfect than before the Constitution, having lost the vital elements of perpetuity. It follows from these views that no state, upon its own mere motion, can lawfully get out of the Union, that resolves and ordinances to that effort are legally void, and that acts of violence within the state against the authority of the United States are insurrectionary or revolutionary. I dare to consider that in view of the Constitution and the laws, the Union has unbroken, and to the extent of my ability, I shall take care of the Constitution itself expressly enjoins upon me that the law of the Union be faithfully executed in all of the state. I trust this will not be regarded as a menace, but only as a decided, declared purpose of the Union, that it will constitutionally define and maintain itself. In doing this, there need not be no bloodshed or violence, and there shall be none unless it be forced upon the national authority. The power confided to me will be used to hold, occupy, and possess the property and places belonging to the government, and to collect their duties and imposts. But beyond what we meant is necessary for these objects, there will be no invasion, no using of forces against and among the people anywhere. Where hostility to the United States in any interior locality shall be so great and universal as to prevent competent resident citizens from holding the federal offices, there will be no attempt to force obnoxious strangers among the people of that object. The mails, unless repealed, will continue to be furnished in all the parts of the Union. So far as possible, the people everywhere shall have the sense of perfect security which is most favorable into calm together thought and reflection. That there are persons in one section and another who seek to destroy the Union at all time events, and are glad of any pretext to do it, I will neither affirm nor deny, but if there be such, I need address no word to them. Before entering upon so grave a matter as the destruction of our national fabric, with all its benefits, its memories, and its hope, would it not be wise to ascertain precisely why we do it? Will you hazard so desperate a step while there is any possibility that any portion of the ills you fly from have no real existence. All profess to be content in the Union if all constitutional rights can be maintained. Is it true that that any right plainly written in the Constitution has been denied? I think not. Happily, the human mind is so constituted that no party can reach the audacity of doing this. If by the mere force of number of majority should deprive the minority of any clearly written constitutional right, it might, in the moral point of view, justify revolution. Certainly would if such right were a vital one, but such is not our case. All the vital rights of minorities and of individuals are so plainly assured to them by affirmation and negation, guarantees and prohibitions in the Constitution that controversies never arise concerning them. But no organic law can ever be framed with the provisions specifically applicable to every question which may occur in practical administration. Shall fugitives from labor be surrendered by national or by state authorities? The Constitution does not expressly say. Most congressmen protect slavery in the territories. The Constitution does not expressly say. Is there any such perfect identity of interest among the states to compose a new union as to produce harmony only and prevent renewed succession? Plainly, the central idea of succession is the essence of anarchy. The majority held in by restraint by constitutional checks and limitations and always changing easily and with deliberate changes in popular opinion and sentiments, is the only true sovereign of a free people. Whoever rejects it does not necessarily fly to anarchy or to despotism. Unanimity is impossible. The rule of minority as a permanent arrangement is wholly indivisible. One section of our country believes slavery is right and ought to be extended, while the other believes that it is wrong and ought not to be extended. This is only substantial dispute. The fugitive slave clause in the Constitution and the law for the suppression of the foreign slave trade are each as well as enforced perhaps as any law can ever be in the community where the moral sense of people imperfectly supports the law itself. Thus, I think, cannot be perfectly cured, and it would be worse in both cases of the separation of the section than before. Physically speaking, we can't separate. We can't remove our respective sections from each other, nor build an impassable wall between them. A husband and wife may be divorced and go out of presence beyond the reach of each other, but the different parts of a country can't do this. They can't remain face to face in intercourse either amicably or hostile. Must continue between them. The chief magistrate derives all its powers from the people, and they have referred none upon him to fix terms for the separation of the states. The people themselves can do this, and if they also choose, but the executive has such nothing to do with it. His duty is to administer the present government as it came into his hands and transmit the unimpaired by him to his successor. But the frame of the government under which we live, this same power, people have wisely given the public servant but little power for mischief, and have with equal wisdom provided for the return of that little to his own hands at very short intervals. My countrymen, one and all, think calmly and well upon this whole subject. Nothing valuable can be lost by taking time. Such of you as now dissatisfied still have the old constitution unimpaired, and on the sensitive point the law of your own framing under it while the new administration will have no immediate power if it were to change either. Intelligence, patriotism, Christianity, and a firm resilience on him who has never yet forsaken this favored land are still competent to adjust in the best way all our present difficulties. In your hands, my dissatisfied fellow countrymen, and not in mine, is the momentous issue of civil war. The government will not assail you. You can have no conflict without being yourselves the aggressors. I am loath to choose. We are not enemies but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained it, must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory stretching out from every battlefield and patriotic graves to every living heart and hearthstone all over the broad land will yet swell the chorus of the Union when touched again, as surely they will be by the better angels of the world. Thank you.